All right. So I think we wanted to get into some things that have come up recently in terms of who are the winners and losers in retail. We just talked about Walmart. Not sure if there's anything else you want to unpack there, but what we're starting to see is that retail sales are falling from initially what we had thought would be I'd say maybe a generous comp, right? Like 3 to 4%. Categories that are not doing so well: furniture, home furnishing stores. Like Rick, you talked about that. So they're down 8.4% year over year. At least when you looked at the month of April, they were down about 0.5% month over month. There was a drop in spending in health and personal care, which has been on a tear, right?
Yeah.
Not hurting our friends at Elf, but is that probably why Walgreens said, "Hey, look, we're going to cut prices on like 1,500 plus items." So curious, like Matt, what are you guys seeing in the pet space? How does pets doing these days?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging space, right? And I think it's difficult, not just in pet, but in any vertical, to navigate the growth post COVID. I think there's a lot of brands that saw the spike in demand. Like pet was a good example of that. Everybody seemed like adopted a dog or a cat during that time. And a lot of people thought like, oh, great, look at this growth. Let's prepare. Let's buy new technology. And we saw obviously the dip and decline in it last year and this year. So, we saw 3, 4, sometimes 10 years of growth in 3 months, and it's not realistic to expect that to continue. So I was, most of that time I was on the agency side, and it was just such a wild time. We couldn't hire people fast enough, and it's such a difference from where we're at now.
Yeah. So it's actually interesting too, because apparel, like we talk about categories and like where things are breaking down. We know apparel's been struggling if you're not Shein. But we heard about Abercrombie and Fitch, like just tore up their earnings recently. We talked about them on the show. Matt, not expecting you to follow all these industries, but I'm curious, like your perspective holistically on like what makes a winner versus what makes a loser, whether it's your experience in brands that you've worked with or, worked on in terms of the agency side.
Yeah, I mean, most of my experience is fashion cosmetics, so I like to follow what they're doing. I think where brands struggle is there's just seems like a lot of panic and desperation to do something with things like AI and whatever the shiny new thing is. But to win, you really need to get the basics right and strengthen your core. So is the site fast? Does the path to purchase make sense? Are the customers converting? And then really get to the unsexy things like cutting acquisition costs and, reining in the costs of your advertising, your MER, like things like that from the financial side. So you really see like the what I call the digitally mature brands like Elf doing all sorts of things like that really are outside the box and innovative. And they can do those because they have their basics down.
Yeah. Miles Thomas talked about reviewing pet services, and I think that's been a big growth area for Chewy and Petco and others in the space. Like services revenue has outpacing goods revenue for a lot of these things because again, you need pet insurance, and if you don't have pet insurance, like it doesn't cover everything still. So
yeah, we offer both of those things, right? We started offering pet insurance last year. That's done really well with our partners at Spot. And we recently have really expanded the omni-channel and digital capabilities of booking services online. Just really, just being more omni-channel, really trying to meet our customers where they want to be.